have found the Genesis frequency. This is Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina welcoming you in to another episode of a show that focuses on your whole life prosperity and success. Whole life prosperity and success by cooperating with the universal laws that are available to each and every one of us. This is Quantum Leap Goal Achievement, radical personal transformation, whole life prosperity and success. Now, stay tuned for another exciting episode that'll move the needle in your life from where you are now to where you want to be.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it may be, wherever you are in the world. Welcome in. This is Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina, kicking off another season, our 7th year for the Genesis Frequency podcast. Oh my goodness gracious, approaching over 100,000 downloads all over the world, going out globally and being picked up by more and more distributors. Most recently, the Unity Urban Ministerial School and their online radio, Anointed Radio is what it's called. And it's one of my past stomping grounds. I am part of the alumni association there. And so glad to be on board with that team of outstanding radio and podcast hosts and doing more and more to contribute and give back to the school that has given me so much and helped me to really transform my life. So, welcome in. That's what it's all about. It's about transformation. It's about quantum leap goal achievement. This is a show about personal, professional, and leadership development, not just training, not just some theories that I picked up in a book somewhere and read about and and I'm spitting them out again, but real life certain ways about going about life and living so that we may accelerate the results that we want to accomplish in our that we're seeing in our lives. If we want something and if we have a burning desire to achieve or accomplish a worthy goal, which is really the definition of success, don't we want to do it sooner than later? I mean, we want to be efficient and effective in the process and bring all the wisdom into our bank of knowledge along the way. But we want to really get there as soon as we possibly can, right? And then move on to what's next. I mean, it's a continuous journey. And so as I was thinking about moving forward into this 7th year and going deeper and deeper, yeah, I've talked a lot about a lot of subjects here. And I'm thinking, well, how can I how can I keep this fresh? Because in personal and professional development, we talk about a lot of different things and a lot of different subjects. And we go back over them and over them and over them because it's the repetition that helps us to change our habitual behavior. But how can we go a little bit deeper? How can we take this really to the next level? And I was looking at a friend and colleague of mine was doing a 3 or 5 day piece in the personal development space. And yeah, I believe he kicked it off. He had on the screen the definition of mastery. I go, man, I haven't heard that word in a long time. And I love that. And I really resonated with the definitions of mastery. And that really spoke to me. And it just kind of hung with me. Mastery. Mastery. And then what came up for me as I was thinking about mastering and just letting that roll around in my consciousness, right? And I'm thinking, well, mastery really leads to excellence in whatever we're doing or whatever subject we seek to master. So we want to make this a year, this season of the Genesis Frequency podcast about mastery. And I remember early on when I was really going through the transformation in my life, I talk about overcoming, making the transformation, experiencing the resurrection into the new life, and and just pinching myself over and over and over again that, hey, I truly am living the dream. And if I didn't do that, if I didn't put in the effort to master a lot of the principles that I talk about here, to master the certain way, I would absolutely not exist in this physical form, right? Because I was very, very, very close to death's door. So I think what really inspires me and ignites that passion right here is mastery. Let's look at that for a minute. What is mastery? Well, if we look to dictionary.com, mastery says it's a command or grasp of a subject. Second definition is superiority or victory, the act of mastering, expert skill or knowledge, the state of being a master. And isn't that what we want when it comes to personal and professional development, to really focus? I started to talk a little bit about my transformation and overcoming, and what I really wanted to master in the beginning as I went through the urban ministerial school and then the University of Metaphysics and then the University of Sedona for my doctorate, and then getting certified with the Proctor Gallagher Institute, and beyond that, purchasing the franchise from Leadership Management International. I really wanted to focus and I really wanted to master the laws and the principles of prosperity. Because I was coming from a very, very dark place. I was coming from the shadows of lack and limitation everywhere I went. They seemed to have followed me all my life. Yeah, I had a lot of stuff, but I had a lot of debt too. And I really wanted to master this thing we study in personal, professional, and spiritual development, prosperity, whole life prosperity, meaning every area of my life. I really wanted to prosper, not just the finances. Yes, really that was was top shelf for me. Time and money freedom and financial independence and financial security, yes, but prosperity in relationships, both with intimate romantic relationships, but relationships within my own family and with friends. Health and physical fitness, prosperity of health and physical fitness, prosperity in knowledge, in wisdom, prosperity and spiritual and ethical growth, and just whole life prosperity in general. So that's what I set my eyes on, my goal. I set my heart on that, is to pursue everything I could on the subject of prosperity. And I've done that, and I continue to learn and to grow in that subject. And I like to say too, in fact, on the website it says this show is about whole life prosperity, and whole life prosperity is inclusive of personal, professional, and leadership development. So, what is it that you want to master in your life? What is it? What do you want to be doing happen? I started asking these questions of you the fourth quarter of last year to give you a head start moving into this year. And we looked at, hey, making that list, checking it twice, and making a choice based on the energy you feel when you go over your list and when you review it and you add to it, what makes your hair stand up. But now I'm talking about, what do you really want to master? Because you might have a goal and a desire that you really, really, really want. But what about some of those intangible things that you really want to master in your life? Maybe you've done the work that I laid out for you to do at the end of last year and said, yeah, I'm taking a look at this habitual behavior that is really keeping me stuck. and I've identified some non-productive activities that I engage in all the time, and I really need to change them. Great. And it takes a lot of work to do that. We can only change like one or two things at a time because these habits are really rooted and grounded in deep. So let's say that you've identified some of those and you're working to catch yourself every time you drift toward engaging in that habit, and you're replacing it with positive affirmative statements of the way you would like to behave, but you're doing it in the present tense. I'm so happy and grateful now. I am focused on the love that I am. For instance, if it's an intangible goal, you want to be more what love is this year. Let's just use that as an example for today's podcast. So you're moving into it. So anytime you feel some animosity, some irritation, maybe even, you know, maybe old past hatred, or, it's a strong word. I really don't like to use it, but any of those feelings of ill will or towards another start to bubble up. You move to your affirmation, your affirmative thought. I'm so happy and grateful. I am what love is. I am the power and presence of my source here and now, which is unconditional love. So you move these affirmations and right. So, and that can be a whole nother show on that topic. What we're talking about here is, what do you want to master? What are some of the intangible things that you can seek out to be a master of in your life? And I found it interesting, by the way. I'm not getting off the subject. I just want to go to the thesaurus. I like to look up words and their definitions and words that are related to the words that I'm studying and working into my vocabulary. But in mastery, we're seeing words like experience, command, practice, intimacy, expertise, right? We want to move away from this idea of we got to be perfect and perfectionism and being a perfectionist. How about we want to be excellent at everything we undertake to do? But I thought it was really interesting when we talk about mastery and becoming a master of some of these qualities and characteristics of our own life, of our own personality, of our own faculties, to see some of these other words. Practice, for instance. This is something that we do every day. What do we do when we talk about it? What do we say when we talk about a doctor? Well, the doctor's practice is located up on, we name a road or something like that. He's been practicing medicine for a number of years. His practice is something that he or she engages in and day out. And that's what it is for us on this positive path of personal, professional leadership and spiritual development. And so that's what we want to do. We want to practice this day in and day out. We want intimacy is another great word. We want to be so intimately familiar with this body of knowledge, soaking in and saturating ourselves with whatever we can, that we do become experts. We do master this body of knowledge. Fluency is in here. We want to be able to fluently talk about it in an elegant way. We want to articulate the principles and the laws. You often hear me talk about, and we're going to talk about them a lot this season, are the laws that precede the law of attraction. The law of attraction is really an effect. Attraction is an effect. What are the laws that precede the law of attraction? Things like that. So let's get back to some of these faculties that maybe we want to consider to master. We can certainly look to our mental faculties, our six mental faculties. Maybe there's something there that really calls to us. Hey, I want to be an expert here. I want to really master this mental faculty of memory or intuition or reason, perception, will, imagination. What is it that calls to you? That really calls to me. Like will. I want to be a master of focus. I want to get to the place of mastery on the subject of will, my intention, my commitment to that intention, moving forward, staying focused on that without drifting off course and chasing every shiny object. Maybe that's what calls to you. whatever it is, just spend some time with these. These are our six mental faculties. See, all this is about in whole life prosperity and professional and personal and leadership and spiritual development is all about living life from the inside out rather than from the outside in. Just that sensual life, living from the input we receive from our five senses. This is mastering what's inside and living from there. So we have command of our own life. We've taken responsibility, right? So now we're mastering these principles, these laws, these faculties. Let's flip it over to the spiritual side. These are our mental faculties. What are our spiritual faculties or our capacities? Maybe there's something within that. And in my field of study, I look to 12 spiritual faculties, 12 spiritual powers, really, that are inherent, I believe, in every living, breathing, spiritual being having a human experience. And those would be the faculties of faith, strength, wisdom, love. Now, I'm talking about spiritual qualities. When I'm talking about strength, I'm not necessarily talking about physical strength, but that certainly can be something that you want to master in your life. But I'm talking right here about our spiritual powers inherent within us. What do we need to draw to the surface more of, and master it in our life? Faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, imagination, understanding. Maybe you want a greater understanding, a deeper understanding of all that is and the laws of cause and effect that I'm certainly continue to be thirsty for. Understanding, right? Will. Will is one of those that, hey, it's a mental faculty, it's a spiritual faculty, it's kind of like a superpower. So is imagination. Imagination, a mental faculty, a spiritual faculty, and we move into order. Maybe just the subject of order. You want to master order in your life, in your physical world, in your mental world, in your spiritual world, when it comes to your vocation and your work environment, in your organization, in your ministry, in your corporation, in your small business. Order is really heaven's first law. Things have to be in order. Things have to be done in order. We have to be in order. We have to do things in order. We have to have things in order to experience the life we would love to live, the results we want to experience. So that's a good one too. How about enthusiasm? How about enthusiasm, zeal? Enthusiasm makes the difference in everything we do. The root word in enthusiasm comes from is it Greek or Latin? Entheos, which means God in us, our source in us, whatever name you want to give to that enthusiasm. I want to be a master of enthusiasm. I want to bring enthusiasm to everything that I do. What is calling you when we talk about mastery? What do you want to bring excellence to in your life? Maybe it's something that really needs to rise to the surface within you, within what you are being, in order to make that quantum leap from where you are now to where you want to be. We continue with the spiritual qualities. We can look at renunciation or elimination, which is continuing to do that inner work of recognizing old, worn out patterns of thought, word, and action that produces undesirable results. This is an ongoing process, but maybe you want to be a master of the denial and affirmation process. Maybe you're expert at using affirmations in your life and writing them out. We don't hear as much mainstream about the denial part. The denial part is moving the old out, and the affirming part is moving the new in. Those habitual behaviors, those paradigms, that programming, just because we identify and can define it and identify some of those within us, doesn't mean that we've overcome them. doesn't mean that we have transformed them into a positive state or a positive pattern of programming. It just means we know that, hey, I can define it. I know they exist. I may or may not know what mine are. We have to move into the denial process, and this is not denying like, yeah, I'm denying I got an addiction problem. We're not talking about that. We're denying them power. We're denying the habit power in our lives. We're denying the non productive activity, any power in our lives. I am not going to let that rob me anymore. So maybe we want to be a master of this process. Hey, you're right. I work with affirmations all the time. I never thought about the denial. Yes, this is where we move into the paradigm purge process. We'll be talking more about that. Maybe this is something you want to move into being a master of in your life. And finally, the spiritual quality of life. I've added a couple more: Thanksgiving and gratitude and forgiveness. Maybe I want to be a master in forgiveness. Maybe that's where mastery is coming up for me, or Thanksgiving. I want to become what Thanksgiving is. But one of the biggest one is that life with an uppercase L. Maybe you want to master this thing called life, this spiritual life, this leadership life, this personally developed life, this professionally developed life. Maybe you want to just exude that professionalism, exude that confidence, exude your positive qualities of character. Maybe you want to exude integrity in your life. All of that life, living life out loud from a foundation of enthusiasm and accomplishment, mastery, excellence, all these things. So, what is it? We're going to talk about that more and more and more as we take a dive into this new year, this fresh new season of the Genesis Frequency Podcast. We're going to talk a lot about the elements of success and how we can become masters of them as we move forward. So it's going to be an exciting season. I thank you for your patience as I took a holiday break, did some traveling, saw some family. I like put a lot of miles on and just got out there and took a much needed tool and anointed radio. Thank you for having me. Thank you for those who continue to contact me to have a conversation. Successappointment.com. That's my calendar. Talk about working with your organization, your ministry, your corporation, your small business, you as an individual, and getting on this positive path for development in your life, personal, professional, leadership, and spiritual development, whatever it is, tailored for what you want for you and for your organization. Doing more and more work with ministries, with nonprofits, with organizations in that space, no matter what denomination you may or may not be. So reach out. Let's have a conversation about that. Also in the automotive field, in the finance field, the medical field. Let's talk. I'm proud to say, too, as a franchisee of Leadership Management International, just got word that for the sixth year in the row, we are the number one training franchise in the world, Entrepreneur Magazine. So, really proud of that. Really proud to share that with you and all that I do. Reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. Successappointment.com gets you my calendar. For now, that's going to do it. You've been listening to the first episode of the seventh season of the Genesis Frequency Podcast with yours truly, Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kosmina. And I wish for you an infinitely spectacular day. God bless you.